Let's enter Ingrid's mind in those first fragile months on the land, as the Halversons built their homestead from the bare, wind-scoured bones of eastern Washington. This is late 1876 into early 1877, just after arrival, just after the cabin was raised, just before the baby came. This is the heart of her becoming. The days are dust and labor, the nights are long, and Ingrid is quietly unraveling and clinging all at once. Ingrid's mind, autumn setting. She didn't speak much aloud in those early weeks, but her thoughts moved like water beneath ice, restless, shifting, pulling at things buried too deep to name. By day, her hands moved with practiced memory, grinding meal, hanging strips of meat, rubbing the children's clothes against the river stones. Her body worked because it had to. She was pregnant and already stretched thin, belly low and aching. Every movement cost her something, and yet she worked, because she couldn't bear the thought of Eric doing it all alone. But in her quiet hours, in the cold dawn while the cabin was still dim, or late at night when the fire cast flickers on the log walls, Ingrid sat still and listened to her own breathing. Sometimes it felt like the only thing she could do is hear her own breath. She would think, "This place is so large, it makes my heart feel small." The horizon stretched too far. There were no neighbors, no church bells, no voices calling out in the distance, just wind and more wind. Always the wind. It howled some nights, pressed at the chinks in the walls like a living thing. Sometimes it sounded like crying. She would lie awake beside Eric's steady, warm body and wonder, did I come too far? Her pregnancy weighed her down, not just physically, though that too. Her hips ached from sleeping on the straw mattress. She had really bad stomach pains one morning, not enough to mean anything for certain, but just enough to whisper fear into her bones. But worse was the silence. She missed the midwives in Minnesota. She missed her mother. She missed the women's voices, the old songs they used to sing while kneading bread, the way they would speak openly about birth and blood and worry. Out here, she felt like she was inventing womanhood all over again, alone. Eric tried, in his way. He brought her water before she asked. He rubbed her back at night. But he didn't have the words. He had only tools and quiet strength. He was trying to build a home with his hands while she was trying to hold one together inside her. And sometimes, especially when she sat watching the children play in the dust, or when the sun cast long, strange shadows through the pines, she would be struck by a sudden, irrational terror. What if the land doesn't want us? Her dreams began to shift. Back in Minnesota, Ingrid used to dream of comfort and familiarity, the feeling of being carried away. But out here, her dreams were dry. Yellow grasses, cracked earth. Sometimes she dreamed of wolves walking upright through the tall grass, their eyes like men, Sometimes she heard her brother's voice calling from the creek bed, even though he'd drowned years ago back in Norway. Once she dreamed the baby was born with eyes wide open, and it didn't cry. It just stared at her until she woke, gasping. She didn't tell Eric. She didn't tell anyone. She buried it like a stone in her chest. And yet, through it all, there were moments when Elise laughed, really laughed, chasing a moth through the cabin and letting it land on her finger. Or when Henrik toddled to her with a fistful of feathers, so proud. When Eric came in at dusk, shirt damp with sweat, and kissed her on the forehead without saying a word. Ingrid felt love so sharp it hurt, a deep, almost painful gratitude. And just beneath it, guilt. Because even in the middle of that love, she sometimes wished that she could disappear. Not forever, just for a little while. Just float away into the sky above the pines and rest. What kind of mother thinks that? She'd whisper to herself, clutching her belly, ashamed. But the thoughts didn't stop. There was a voice that she'd always had, quiet but insistent. As a girl, it had told her stories, sung to her in the darkness. As a young woman, it had whispered, "There is more. Go find it." That voice brought her across the ocean. It brought her west. It brought her here. But now it was changing. Now the voice said, "This place is too wide for you. You will lose something here. You already have."